Hello and welcome. My name is Coming Clean, and this is the first episode in a series called In-Depth Skylander Analysis, where I will pick a Skylander from any of the games and take a thorough look into their moveset, playstyle, and how you can use them most effectively. This episode will focus on Warnado from the original Spyro's Adventure. Let's get right into it. We'll start with an overview of the character. Warnado is a turtle hatched in the midst of a powerful enchanted twister where he learned many secrets of the air element. He's a versatile Skylander with a unique main attack who excels at dealing damage to multiple enemies at once. He suits players who enjoy getting up close and personal with their foes, but at the same time want a few tactical tricks up their sleeve for when the need arises. All analysis done in this video is on a level 10 Series 1 Warnado on the Eye of the Storm upgrade path in the context of the first game, Spyro's Adventure. Let's move on to Warnado's moveset. Warnado's main attack launches him forward in a straight line. From the very first frames, Warnado himself is turned into a giant hitbox, meaning you damaged any enemy you touched, but you can still take damage from both melee attacks and projectiles. The move only has a short amount of end lag, meaning you can easily chain multiple slides together. The duration and length Warnado slides is fixed whether you tilt the analog stick in the way you are sliding or don't touch it at all. You can slightly adjust your trajectory by tilting the analog stick perpendicular to the direction Warnado travels in. The attack goes straight through weaker enemies, while bigger ones act like obstacles that you can slide alongside without necessarily getting stuck on them. The attack does 22 damage, and to make a comparison, Zap's projectile does 9 damage and Terrafin's punches does 16 damage. However, since Warnado's main attack travels through enemies, he can deal damage to multiple foes in a very short time, adding up to a very high burst of damage. Warnado's DPS with this move drops significantly when fighting single opponents, since he can slide away from his targets when attacking, and also because of the low frequency the move can be used in. There's also a possibility that you will get stuck on larger enemies, which will leave you spinning in place until the attack animation plays out, leaving you open to counterattacks. One last thing to consider is that Warnado slides away in the direction he's facing when you push the attack button, not the way you tilt the analog stick. If you, for example, want to attack enemies right behind you, you have to take the turnaround animation into consideration and briefly wait with your input until Warnado is facing the completely opposite way. If you press the attack button too early, you will slide to the side instead. The same goes for when you want to chain slides together in different directions. After a slide, there's a brief moment when Warnado is immobile, and if you mash the attack button instead of waiting for Warnado to turn around, you will continue to slide in the same direction. Warnado's secondary attack makes him shoot a tornado in front of him. The length in which the tornado travels can be altered by holding the attack button up until the point it reaches its maximum length. You are, however, unable to move during the duration you hold the attack button, and only one tornado can be active at any given time. Enemies can be caught in the tornado, which immobilizes them for a couple of seconds and then spits them out, dealing 25 damage. The tornado disappears after a few seconds, but during the time it stays in place, it can capture and deal damage to multiple enemies, and enemies can be caught in the tornado any given time during its duration. However, the same tornado can only trap the same enemy once. Launching enemies with a tornado does not remove their hitbox, but once they are elevated to a certain level, Warnado can't damage them with any of his other attacks. There is, however, a brief moment right after the tornado connects that the enemies are still close enough to the ground, during which Warnado can still damage them with his sliding attack. The short amount of time your enemies are immobilized, and the fact that the move can't lift stronger foes into the air, makes the tornadoes to be a less than optimal tool for crowd control. It also has the lowest damage per second of any of Warnado's attacks, and should therefore be used in conjunction with his other moves. On the positive side, it does give Warnado some utility when engaging enemies at a medium distance, in situations where you would prefer not to get up close with your main attack. It also gives Warnado extra means of attack when he's in the air, which brings us to his Tertiary Ability. By pressing attack button 3, Warnado's flight ability is activated, and he's lifted into the air by a tornado. This increases his movement speed and armor. Warnado does not have a fast walk speed, so the speed increase is definitely noticeable. As you can see in this clip, the damage your enemies do to you is not reduced, but the shield that nullifies all incoming damage seems to appear with a higher frequency. Characters like Spyro and Cinder also have flight abilities that make them move even faster than Warnado does in the air, but they also turn much slower. Warnado can move freely in all directions while in the air, just as he can when walking. While this ability is active, you can use Warnado's tornadoes just as usual. His main attack is however swapped for another ability where he shoots mini turtles at his enemies with a high rate of fire. They reach quite far and can also bounce off objects. These do 15 damage, which is slightly higher than your average projectile in this game, and they also travel through enemies, further increasing their damage potential. They do however come in a limited supply. You can have a maximum of 6 mini turtles launch ready at any given time. It takes somewhere between 1 and 2 seconds for a turtle to respawn, giving you a total time of a little more than 10 seconds to recharge all of them. All turtles will spawn as soon as you enter flight mode, so cancelling your tornado and then immediately activating it again will give you full ammo faster than what it would have taken you to wait in flight mode. Lastly, by holding attack button 1, Warnado will slam into the ground and damage all enemies around him. This move does 35 damage, which is higher than Camo's Melon Fountain that deals 30 damage, but lower than Spyro's Ground Pound that deals 50 damage. Warnado's Ground Pound does however have a large area of effect. This attack is very committal as the recovery animation is lengthy and leaves Warnado open to attacks. Using this move on larger enemies that don't flinch is not advised unless you are certain the move will defeat them, or you will almost certainly get punished otherwise. Warnado's strength lies in engaging multiple weaker enemies at the same time. The DPS generated when sliding through a group of targets is extremely high, and both his mini turtle projectiles that travels through enemies and his tornadoes that can damage and immobilize multiple of them at once are also great tools for fighting several foes at once. When fighting larger, unflinching or stationary targets, Warnado's efficiency drops significantly. His sliding attacks shoot straight past his enemies or leaves you stuck too close to them, and both the tornadoes and mini turtles can't be used to their full potential. He also lacks a safe way to engage enemies at a faraway distance, as his sliding attack gets him up close fast but also leaves him in the middle of the danger. Alternating between tornadoes and mini turtles works okay when fighting at a medium distance, but there are certainly other Skylanders better equipped for that particular task. So what tactics should you apply when using Warnado to get the most out of him? These are my suggestions. Make a habit out of always starting the fight in flight mode, even though continuously using his main attack lets you travel much faster. Start the fight by throwing off a tornado to immobilize 1 or 2 enemies, or immediately unload all of your mini turtles before you exit flight mode. Try to find a line that crosses over as many enemies as possible and use your slide attack in that trajectory. Using multiple slides right after each other often works as well, but be aware of where you aim, since you can easily get stuck on larger enemies, leaving you open to attacks. Shooting more tornadoes in the midst of battle can sometimes be viable even though your slide attack has a higher DPS, since the tornadoes just stays in place and can net you some free damage. When you have a little bit of distance between you and your foes, activating flight mode and immediately unloading all mini turtles again can also give you some high bursts of damage. When you need to fight at a distance, your best option is to use flight mode and fire off mini turtles as often as you can. Use the tornadoes only when you are out of ammo or when it's safe for you to stay in place for the duration you need to hold the attack button for the tornado to reach your target. That was an in-depth look at Series 1 Warnado on the Eye of the Storm upgrade path. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you learned something new. If you want to discuss anything I said about him, you are more than welcome to leave your thoughts in a comment. Also, consider subscribing for more content like this. That is however it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Coming Clean and I will see you next time. Take care.